Hi, so we are starting and getting going. This is the second week. We are in the first month of physiology of the 90 days to you. So the first month is all about physiology. The second month is going to be all about understanding our mind and mindset and how important that is. And the third month is all about connecting to spirit, our intuition, leading with passion when we're connecting to our soul selves. And it's specifically designed this way to be a stacking program. So that means that the physiology is the strongest foundation. And then on that, we learn about the mind, and the mindset is the next one. And you can't really do the mind as well if you don't have your physiology down. And then the spirit comes on third, and you can't really do the spirit as well if you don't have your mindset down, if you don't have your physiology set. So these are all in order for a reason, to allow by the third month to really be able to connect with our intuition, right? With our divine destiny, our greater destiny. And that's ultimately where we want to be. And we need to do these practices to get our physical vessels all tuned up, and then get our minds all tuned up so that we can allow for this opening and this connection with spirit. That is ultimately where we want to be. So I'm so grateful to have you all here today, either on live or at the replay. And last week we talked about the specifics of this being designed over the 3 months, and also being more about a rejuvenation cleansing. So we're staying away from any depletion that can happen. And we're focusing on really getting the body in ultimate state, a peak state, through cleansing practices that rejuvenate rather than deplete. And so that's the main theme of this cleanse. It's really important to remember, above all, that this is a process, that slower is always faster. This is not a quick fix. This is not something that's designed that way. I've been doing this for about 25 years, almost 30 years, and I know from experience that slower is really faster. If you want results in your body that are sustainable, they need to be practiced over time. So a lot of times we can do these quick cleanses, and we just need to be careful. So for myself, every now and then I will do like a 1-day juice fast, and maybe I'll do a 3-day. And that's something I've been doing for a long time. So I know which kinds of things to combine so that it's not harsh on my system, it's not depleting. And there is a time and place for that. But this is a different thing. This is a lifestyle. So we're really embracing a way to live. And what I would just love to impart on all of you is that I could have my wish. If there was any wish that I wanted granted, my wish would be is that you would get this sense of like, oh, I remember who I am. Like, oh, this is me. I feel so good. I feel so strong, and I feel happy, and I feel content, and I feel stable. I just feel good, right? And I know that we've all had that experience. And that's why it's called 90 Days to You, because I really want to have this feeling. And I have done this cleanse over the last few months, and I got that feeling that like, oh, it's me again, right? It's me again. And just really leading from a soul-centered place. And so that is my wish for you. That is what I want for you. And that is what we're going for, so that you feel like yourself, because we are all better off if we're all moving from our authentic selves, for ourselves and for everyone around us, for our friends and family and everyone we serve. So remembering that this cleanse is going to be offered every fall and every spring. That's the natural cycle. Sometimes you can do it with every change of season. So every 4 months, there is a time and place for that. This one is really beautiful because it works with the 12-month calendar that you have 3 months, and then it's like all set up in sync. It's really beautiful. So you can follow me for the fall cleanse if you've enjoyed this one. And it's just a really good reminder to get back in sync with our body, mind, and spirit. So today we are going to talk about some things that are going to be in support of physiology. And I broke this down into, I'm calling it the 3 Ps. And so I'm calling this the 3 Ps, so it's easy to remember. So we're going to say, remember the 3 Ps. So the 3 Ps are, the first P is play with the energy. The second one is practice your self-care. And the third one is pray. So like leaning into some things that we're going to talk about. So we can remember the 3 Ps, right? We want to practice self-care, we want to play with the energy, and we want to pray. So that means that we're going to like lean into some things that we've already established, like pray as in have awareness, and just like calling in that energy. So I made a video that I posted in our Facebook group where I just, gosh, I can't even, it was really interesting. This never, ever happens to me. And I still have no idea what it was. It was very unusual for me. I got really sick. Like I was like throwing up. It was really bizarre. And, Alex feels like it was because we went to Easter brunch and there were some people that were sick there, and or their kids were sick, or he just thinks it was from that. Who knows? It could have been from that. It could have been from emotions. I have no idea, but it has been years since I've had that. And I just attesting to living such a healthy lifestyle, it kind of just ran through me in a couple hours, and then I was fine. Like I don't, it's just a processing. Who knows what it was, right? So I went to sleep for 2 hours, and then usually I try to get in bed by 9 during this cleanse, but I couldn't because I had already been sleeping. So then I was kind of awake. So then I went to bed late. I mean, everybody knows how this goes, right? And then by the time 5 in the morning rolled around, I was like, oh God, and I really didn't want to get up. I just did not want to. And it helps with this process. You got to have these things to lean into. So this is part of this like pray part, right? Is that I have this structure of this online workout. It's called The Class. So go to theclass.com. And what I did was I was like, all right, I don't want to get up. And I looked up who was going to be teaching that morning. And it's actually the founder, who is such a lovely person, and she's amazing. And that's what I needed. So if I had to rely on myself, I would have not gotten up. I would not have. And because I just couldn't, and sometimes we need to acknowledge that about ourselves. We're not meant to do this alone. We need to establish these structures in our lives that we can lean into. So you have me as a structure, right? And you want to have some other structures so that when things start to go sideways, you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone, right? I also have my partner, Alex, who gets up and he's been doing the workouts with me. So that's a really fun thing to do as a couple. We've been doing that together in the morning. So he would have missed me. He would have been supportive if I said I didn't want to do it. That would have been okay. But I'm really proud of myself. So I just feel like she's not like my favorite teacher, but she was definitely my favorite teacher for that morning. It was absolutely divinely orchestrated. She's gentle but strong, and she doesn't do a lot of, her name's Taryn, so she doesn't do a lot of workouts with a lot of the jumping. It's more like very thoughtful and strong movements, which is what I needed. I didn't want to be jumping around a lot, and I knew that was the workout. And so just having this allowing and being really gentle on ourselves, right? So establishing these structures that are here. So that's the pray part. So as long as I'm already talking about that, I'll continue to talk about that one. So that's one of the 3 Ps. So pray is that, leaning into these structures that we've created for ourselves. So that's one of the structures. Another structure could be having things around the house that are promoting a healthy lifestyle, right? And that are promoting you to be conscious and do the right thing during this cleanse. So one of those little mini trampolines, I mean, those things are so awesome just to have around the house, and if you're feeling kind of low, but you need to get some energy, you want to think about it, that movement will give you energy. And I feel like that is something that can be a little bit shadowy or matrix or whatever you want to call it. There's a distortion in there where people think, like it's just not true. I mean, there are extreme examples where it's like you could be exhausted and then really not be able to move, right? Like a sick person or a young person or an elderly person, that's true, right? But for somebody who's middle-aged and who's healthy, we think that, oh, we're tired, I don't want to go and do my workout. And that's just not true. Like you will get energy from movement. You absolutely will. So having one of those trampolines to just do some boings on, just do some bounces, you could do that. Doing some breath work, doing a couple of jumping jacks, just get in the habit of leaning into this idea that movement will give you energy. And part of that is because, the physiology is the foundation, right? It's a strong foundation for all the things that we're doing. And I would say for everything, if you want to be successful in your career, you have to have energy, right? If you want to be successful in your relationships, you have to have energy. As a parent and as a partner, it's like, who wants to have a partner, who's always like, oh, I'm tired, I'm grumpy, I don't feel good, that's not sexy. Like, we don't want that, right? We want somebody who's like strong and vital and practicing their self-care, right? So you have to have energy to be in a partnership. All the things, if you have your spiritual practice, right? And you have your own evolution that you're doing, as you're transforming, you have to have energy to do all that. So movement gives you energy because of the way that our bodies are set up. So doing push-ups is going to make your muscles strong. That's true. The other part that people don't talk about a lot is, so these are all kind of like myth busters of what we're doing right now. The other part is that we are physical vessels, that are housing our spirit, and we use our physical vessel to understand what's going on with us spiritually. So we really want to be tuning into our physical vessel. So there's a woman, a famous woman, she's since passed, but she developed this method called Rolfing. Her name's Ida Rolf, I think. I think it was in the 60s or 70s. She developed this method where, she said the issues are in the tissues. The issues are in the tissues. So that means whatever's happened to us in our lives is stored somewhere in our body. And we don't want it to just get stuck there, So maybe your feelings got hurt, or maybe you're really excited about something, or maybe you're really angry about something, or, maybe your ego's coming in and you feel like your mind's controlling you, or maybe you have some inner child wounding that's coming up and your heart is tender and there's some sadness, right? So all of this stuff that's in our physical vessel needs to move. It needs attention. It needs a place to go. So I always like to think of the word emotion. So I think of emotions, right? Is just motion, energy and motion. Our emotions want to move. They want to move. And so our physical vessel needs to move. And also just, just physiologically, our lymph actually won't move unless our body is moving, right? It doesn't have a system on its own to pump our immune system and our lymph to keep us healthy. We got to do that on our own. And that's why having that little mini trampoline is so wonderful. And also that's why for this cleanse, what I am recommending is that you commit to the 14 days. I feel like I should be getting a commission from the class. And, my commission is that people feel good doing it because I have had the experience, and they have a 14-day free trial. And, it's just beautiful. I was with, who was the workout I had this morning? Oh, I can't remember who it was. She reminds me of Janelle from the Dale Holloway practice. So I'm from the Dale Holloway network. So much like her, and her energy, just such a beautiful soul. And the mindset, she just was saying all these positive things. It was so beautiful and such a great workout. And so I'm just all for advocating the class, and just reminding everyone that the reason why I say that we need to get up at 5 is because that's going to ignite our metabolism. So it's going to get our Agni, is our fire. It's our digestive fire burning, right? So a lot of times, I think most of us are not on this, for the sole purpose of losing weight, although it is kind of nice to always feel fit, right? And sometimes we can get caught up in this cycle where we're not eating because we want to be losing weight, right? And so we stop eating, and then we eat a little bit, and then we gain weight, and we're like, and it's kind of this weird cycle. So what we want is we want to ignite our fire. We want our fire to just be burning, right? And one of the ways that we do that is by waking up at 5 a.m. So if you go back to the Facebook group, I actually posted the Chinese schedule with the times where it shows all the different organ systems, right? And that's a real thing. The energy moves through all the different cycles, at different times, because different parts of our bodies are going to be doing different things at different times. Believe it or not, it's not all doing the same thing, because it's moving through different places and areas in our bodies. And so we want to be in sync with that. So we wake up at 5 a.m. It helps to get our fire going. It helps to get our digestion up, and it's burning through. And I have to say that I have been eating lighter, and associating with this feeling of hunger with feeling alive. It feels so good to be hungry in a way that you slept well, right? That you're eating well, and that you are going to eat well, and that you have done your workout in the morning. So you've slept well, you've done your workout, you're doing your herbs, and then you're eating well, and your body is just this it's just on fire. It's just so happy and bright and light, because it's doing the things that it's supposed to do, right? It's doing all of that. It's giving you energy. It's burning through things. And so this hunger, this sensation of hunger, it's almost like this hunger for life. It's like the joie de vivre, the lust for life is what it feels like with the hunger. So do your best to kind of associate hunger with this, feeling of I'm hungry for life. I'm waking up. I'm hungry to transformation. I'm hungry for change, right? And not kind of these negative connotations, or more of an unconscious, I would say, than it is really negative. So before I started doing this cleanse, I'd notice my thoughts around being hungry, and that's a bad thing, right? It's I'm hungry. That means I'm I gotta go put something in my face, right? And it's no, we can just pause, just pause and allow for some consciousness to come in there, and some awareness around the sensation of hunger, the feeling of hunger. What does that mean, right, for us? And doing some journaling is wonderful as well. Just, we're only going to be in the physiology for the month of April, so embrace it, get really into it, just all the little nooks and crannies of everything that you want to know about physiology is here, because pretty soon we're going to be on to mind, and we're not going to be talking about physiology as much. Okay, so The other thing with the P of the pray, so we've got the 3 Ps, our practice self-care, play with the energy, and then pray. So you want to lean into these things like, our community. The other thing is, the things that work, right? So that's what I would also note with this. So, the pray is like establishing these, structures, like having the class, like my story that I said about, I didn't want to do it. And then I noticed who was teaching and I just did it because, I knew it was going to be good and I didn't have to think about it too much. And left to my own devices without having that, I wouldn't have done it for sure. Not. So that's a thing that works. The other thing that works, is just going for swim or going for a hike or whatever is your practice that you've done that you've noticed good results. So there was a while ago after COVID where I started doing yoga and swimming, and I was doing a very gentle yoga and swimming, and it wasn't doing the same. I feel like for my age and what I'm needing right now is a more vigorous workout. And so I'm feeling better now, but you gotta, see what that is for you. And then really you want to just keep doing whatever's working. So look at your results that you're getting, right? And find something that works for you and then do that thing, right? I mean, it sounds so silly. I'm like, don't do the thing that's not working, do the thing that is working, right? But a lot of times we make things more complicated than they need to be. It doesn't really need to be that complicated, right? And so, just allowing for that. So the other thing I was gonna take a picture, and then I just didn't have a chance, but I was bringing this into today and talking about, what happens if you don't have the food available, or what happens if it's not, just perfect. And that's okay, right? So there's some people that are on the go a lot. There's, college students and all different people of all different ages and stages. So I was at our other house and cleaning and doing some things, and there's like, I haven't been there very much, and so there's like no food there, and I was really hungry. I'd eaten like, a sweet potato or something all day, and I was like, that's okay, so I found some like sushi rice and sushi like rolls, the nori rolls, and that's not part of the cleanse, but that's okay. I also found some rice vinegar and some soy and some ghee. And so I was like, well, hey, I'm like basically making sushi, And so you just pray, you bless your food, and the fat has this ability to make sure that the sugars don't go too much. So sushi rice is white rice, and that's not something that's on the cleanse, but sometimes our days go like this. Sometimes this happens. So I'm going out of town on Sunday, and sometimes that happens. It's either you got to eat something, or don't eat. And so I had the seaweed, I had the, organic sushi rice, which isn't that bad. I made little sushi rolls, and I had the fat in there, and the vinegar is so good for our liver, and it was delicious, and I felt really good. So it's okay to do that, right? Like, as long as we're staying away from sugar and alcohol and caffeine and processed foods. So those are the things that we want to stay away from. And also just noticing that if you do partake in some sugar or processed foods, this is the other part about creating the structures. You're gonna get, like cravings, so when I first did this cleanse, I was so good. I didn't do any of that, so good. And then towards the end, I was like, oh, whatever. I can't remember. I had like a tiny bit of sugar on something. I couldn't believe it. The next day, that craving came online where I didn't have it at all before. And it was, uncomfortable. It was annoying. It was like, oh God, now I have to deal with this situation, so that would be called like a consequence. So there was the temptation, right? Took the temptation, and then you got to be ready for the consequence. But bring the awareness and the consciousness to say, stop, Okay, so if I go for the temptation the second time, then I'm just right back into the cycle and there's no point in me even doing this cleanse. So I'm going to do this experiment on myself and I'm just going to say no to these things and I'm going to see how it goes. Like, see if I do feel more like myself, so you just challenge yourself, and that will bring the awareness and consciousness, right? So the beautiful thing is that I had already been on the cleanse for a while and then I could see the contrast. So that's what we want, because then I was like, yeah, no, I kind of like living like this way. So it's kind of like if you're in a community of very loving, high vibe people, and then maybe you hang out with somebody who's a little negative, but they seem like interesting or whatever that might be. And then you spend some time and you're like, okay, well, that was an interesting experiment. Like, no, I don't really, I'd want to rather go hang out here, and that's part of life. That's okay. That's like what we do. We're learning and growing. So that's the P with the pray and like leaning into these different things, right? So just allowing yourself to relax. Don't feel like you need to be so strict or so harsh, just, being able to lean into these places. So the P for practice self-care. This is basically what we're doing. We're basically practicing self-care. And the thing is that in our culture and our society, I was in middle school in the 70s. We had a home economics class where they taught us how to cook, how to sew, how to like clean the kitchen. Like, it was actually a real class. They don't have any of that anymore. And that was just a little bit when I was growing up. So it's like, we weren't really taught all these basic things, it's part of our journey to learn how to do this ourselves. We need to learn how to practice self-care, so I always kind of think about animals, right? Like, if you think of a kitty, just like we're going to be like cats, just like, how much time do you see cats, and dogs, like all the animals. We have chickens and they're always like preening their feathers and making themselves pretty, and just so, and like, that's what we want to be doing on the inside as well as the outside, both of those, right? And so that is the thing that I want to emphasize most for this talk on the second week, is how important it is to practice your self-care in your surroundings around you. So there's the law of correspondence. So on the inside, so is on the outside. So that means that part of this cleanse is really looking at your external environment. It's like, maybe it's time for you to get some new sheets on the bed. Do you need to do that? Maybe it's time to take your car and get it detailed, right? For me, it was like, maybe it's time to get a new car. And that's made all the difference for me, right? Because we constantly want to be upping our standard. We want to have a very high standard for ourselves. And then we want to always be going up. We want to continually be raising our standard. Have a very high standard for yourself. And part of having a high standard for yourself means that in your external environment, you're making sure that everything around you is really beautiful and clean and put away, right? And I don't know if this is fortunate or unfortunate. That also means our electronics, right? So if you have a zillion million emails in your inbox, time to clean that out, right? It's springtime. So that's part of like what we're doing with this cleanse, is the theme. So, I wish I would have taken before and after pictures, because it would have been really inspiring, and I didn't. I'm sorry, next time. But I did this, like, I went in. It's not fun. And, you can always pay somebody to help you do this. You have to do this. You absolutely have to go into all of your closets and all of your drawers, get all that crap out. I had this closet that was so full of stuff, and I literally took everything out of the closet. It was so packed full of like camping stuff and skiing stuff. And I took everything out and just exploded it all over the floor. Then I scrubbed the whole closet clean, and then I carefully put everything back so it looks all beautiful, like It's like a showcase now. It looks so pretty. I did the same thing for my physical files with my taxes. You know, I went through all of my files. I cleaned everything out, right? Because it's the law of correspondence. I want the inside of my body to be functioning at a high level. I have a very high standard. That means my external environment is going to be functioning at a very high level, right? And so I don't want to have these like files dragging down, you know. Some of the papers were from my divorce and from taxes, and I no longer needed those. I don't want that hanging on energetically. You know, this isn't the call for this, but I do a lot of work with a feng shui process of giving things away. And I have given everything I owned away twice in my life, like everything. And it feels so good, you know? And so if you want to have a one-on-one or ask me about that, actually the Facebook group is a perfect place to ask about that. So if you have any questions about that, put that in there and I'm happy to share more on that, right? Because if you think about people living tribally, they didn't keep anything, you know, it was like they were just constantly grabbing new materials and making new things, and they didn't keep around a bunch of old stuff in their life, right? So that's really important. Practicing self-care, you know, spending some time with your cleaning, you know, your utensils in your kitchen, you know, just opening up the love to everything. I mean, when I'm in my kitchen, you know, this is one of the things about me. It's like when people come over to my home, you know, in my kitchen, it's like they're coming into the most intimate areas, my intimate space, because there's so much love in my kitchen. Like every little glass, every little spoon. I mean, it's really, my kitchen is my altar of love, right? And you can feel it. People feel it when they come into my kitchen. And so it's like you know, we're in love. We're in love. We're making love with this space. That's our space, right? And this is the ultimate practicing self-care and self-love, is that we want to have these spaces. So, you know, your computer, your phone, you know, your bag that you carry all your stuff around with, your suitcase, you know, I'm going to go travel, you know, my car, all these different things, you know, just take that extra time to make sure that they're all shiny, shiny, and spend some time and like, oh, you know, just folding your clothes with love, you know? So it's a really like, you know, there's no such thing as time. We limit ourselves, you know, there's no limits except the limits that we put on ourselves ultimately. So you can spend time and folding your laundry, and the divine will be 100% supportive of you if you want to spend a lot of time folding your socks and folding your shirts, just so when you do your laundry, you know, like one of the fondest memories I have is my best friend from kindergarten. We lived together for a couple months in our 20s, and the most fun thing that we did, we go to the laundromat and we would just bring food and we'd hang out for hours, and just so much fun, you know, just like clothes and folding and cleaning and hanging out. It was just really fun. So you can do that, even as older people, we feel like we don't have a lot of time, but we do. Um, all right, so the other P is the play. So we have the pray. So you're going to lean into those structures that I talked about, right? And then you're going to have the P for practice self-care. So that was the one that I want to emphasize the most. You know, if you need to clean your oven, clean your oven, clean out the freezer, clean out the freezer, you know, clean behind the fridge. That was one of the first things that I did when I met my beloved partner. And he just thought, he was like, well, you've seen behind my fridge. So, you know, you've seen everything now. And I was like, you got to clean behind the fridge, under the fridge. You got to clean all those little corners, you know, got the spider webs out. All right, raise your standards, you know, raise your standards and keep them high. Even if you don't feel good, you know, you just do it anyway. Just do it anyway, right? just always have those high standards. This is one of the things in Buddhism that I just so appreciate about that culture and that faith, is that it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. They really talk about bringing that in. If you're just, you're doing the dishes, right? You're just loving it, right? The same way you do everything, right? You're just bringing this love and care and this super high standard. You're not going to do your dishes like half-ass and just throw them around, right? All the things, all the things. It's such a beautiful way to live. And this is embracing, the lifestyle. It's a lifestyle cleanse. So we're cleansing our lifestyle. We're looking at our lifestyle and all these things in our lifestyle, right? All right, the other P that I want to touch on, and then we're probably going to break for some questions. So think of your questions. The other P is the play with energy. So it's really important during this cleanse to notice, the energy and what's coming up, and to always keep it joyful. So that would be my challenge to you, is to be cheerful, right? Choose to be cheerful, choose to be joyful. You certainly don't have to be, you can be however you want to be, but it makes a difference. It's like, it really is a choice. So we really can show up as cheerful, happy people if we want to be. And I would encourage you to do that. And I don't mean in a Pollyanna way of like, everything's great, and everything's not great and you're kind of gritting your teeth. I don't mean like that. I mean to be like cheerful and joyful and be like, yeah, I'm having a hard time with this right now. It's just like, whew, life is like, whoo, like make some sounds. That's another thing I love about the workout, the class, is they're constantly reminding us to make sounds. I mean, you can laugh at stuff that's horrible. I don't mean in a disconnected, like harmful way, right? If somebody's been hurt, I don't mean like that, of course. But I mean, when things happen, things don't go our way. If you feel yourself dropping in your energy where you're going to go and be grumpy, just laugh at yourself. Like, just that is hilarious. That is so funny. Here I go again, like, oh God, it's so funny. So like my thing right now is that I was in this car accident and then I have a new car and I'm like, okay, Rachel, let's slow down, because it's kind of a sports car. Although the ironic thing is that I'm driving way slower in this car than I ever have in any other car. I don't know what that's about, but just learning to go slow, right? So it's a choice, having that reflection on ourselves and what we're doing. And it's a choice to show up in certain ways. We don't need to hurry. We don't need to be grumpy, right? So a big part of this first month of the physiology is establishing this strong foundation so that we don't have these distractions. So the sugar and the caffeine and the alcohol and the processed foods make us go fuzzy. You will go fuzz. You will go unconscious, right? And if you're unconscious, you don't have the self-awareness to help yourself in your transformation. So that's the reason why we're doing this. So we're staying away from those things, and then we're bringing the herbs and supplements in to support you, to cleanse you so that those things don't look as appealing. So this is all very, important and all orchestrated to support you in the best way possible, right? So we want to be conscious. We want to be clear thinking. We want to be feeling good. We want to be full of energy so that we can get everything that we want in life, like live our best life, right? We want to have it that way. It's really beautiful. And with that comes the clear thinking and the consciousness and all that. But if we've gone fuzzy, then none of those things are going to happen, So you just notice yourself. If you go fuzzy for a day, that's okay. Then get right back on. Or put a comment in the Facebook group and be like, oh, I went fuzzy today, and we can all laugh about that. So I had this quinoa. It was just so funny. I had this quinoa and I was eating it and it was like getting all stuck in my teeth. And I just kept forgetting, but I got to take a picture of myself with that and be like, is anybody else having this problem? With like all the greens, everything in our teeth, just be silly, be playful. Okay. So we have the 3 Ps, practice your self-care, play with the energy, play. It's so important, right? And then pray. So you're leaning into these different structures. So, and then keeping your standards high and remembering that this is a lifestyle cleanse. This is not a quick fix. And any questions? Does anybody have any questions? I'd love to have you come on if you want me to. I guess the best way to do this would be, oh, there you go. You can unmute yourself.
I don't know why I'm not being seen right now, but I'm sure you can hear me.
I can hear you. I don't know why either. It's a
weird.
really beige color there. Well, I see your photo.
Yeah, it'll put that up, but now it won't put me up. Weird. So I'm sorry I've been in and out because it's taking care of my dad. This is the time we put him to bed, and I had a new caregiver last week and then a new one this week, so I'm kind of in and out of it. I think for me, where I can't say struggling, challenged, is new recipes with eating right again. So I should be getting that book. I think it's this weekend, so that'll be great. But
not everything in there is on the cleanse, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
And all right. So was that your question, or is there more to that?
Well, so what soups? I haven't been a big soup person, making soups, but I do enjoy them. So maybe a soup recipe, broccoli, and I don't know I don't know. What's your favorite?
I can repost it. I think I posted this.
Which one?
But there was a spinach soup that I made. I'll repost it, Julie. I'll repost.
Yeah,
also this little
I missed that
mixer. Yeah, there's an electric mixer that I'll repost it.
Okay.
That one about the soups. Yeah, because Wednesday is the day. And so we'll, as we go further into it, I'll be reminding everybody more. There's just a lot of content. So I've been going slow, so it doesn't feel like it's too much, but I love the fact that you're bringing up the soups. So the way that I think of soups is I think of, any of the vegetables, doing, you can make into a puree. So the soups that work really well for that, are the squash, right? So we're tapering off the season of squash. So this cleanse, you basically want to think of, how can you support yourself seasonally? So the fall cleanse is going to be a lot different than the spring cleanse, right? So now we're starting to get more lettuces and more sprouts and more things like that, like more berries. I mean, it's confusing because we have everything all year round.
Yeah, I know.
So don't get too strict with that. It's okay. I would just be gentle with yourself on that. But you will start to notice the flavors, like the squashes. I'm noticing that the flavors are changing, they're not quite as sweet as they were just a month or two ago. So the squashes work so well. So you can, on this cleanse, we're staying away from baking so much. You want to do more like cut the squash up and then simmer it in water. And then you're just gonna blend it. So there's an electric, like handheld blender that's actually, it has a like an outlet you plug in and you hold it in your hand and you just blend it in the pan. And then
you know what? I think I did see, now that you're saying that, the handheld one, I actually have one of those, and I did see that, but I didn't know like how long do you cook it and what the other ingredients were or something. I don't know if I missed it or whatever. Yeah, definitely repost it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would say is to just start like everything in life. Just start really simple and slow. So just do a tiny bit and then you can add on because you're building the flavors and your
Yeah,
desires, right? So you
right.
want to make it really simple so that you can know what's the difference. So if so this was where I would start, Julie, instead of like thinking like I gotta have all these ingredients and make the soup, then if it's good or if it's bad, you won't really know what you put in it or the proportions.
Right.
So you can just get some fresh spinach and simmer it in a pan and blend that and then do those three, the coriander, cumin, and fennel, or just maybe cumin or powdered cumin,
Yeah.
experiment with those spices,
Mhm.
but keep it really simple. So I started with that spinach without those spices, just the spinach. And then I added in fennel one day. I just had a fennel bulb. And so I chopped it up and I simmered it in. It was so delicious. You can also do apple. You can do apple's a new one. I never did that one before, but I picked that up from Persian cooking. So
Mm,
you can do that with squashes, but that cookbook is going to be really beautiful. And just know that there's some things, like we're not doing beans and rice,
right.
so just substitute, but it gives you ideas and it's such a
Exactly.
free, cafe gratitude. And then when you're done that with the cleanse, and you are starting to incorporate more of those things, then you have this beautiful cookbook, of all these different things. So
Yeah.
I hear you on just like knowing what to cook, right? So I just hit my max yesterday with the quinoa. I was like, okay, like I
Yeah.
can't eat quinoa anymore. I mean, not right now. So that will happen and that's okay. That's natural and that's normal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Start to get your fill of certain things and not want to have
That's
those.
why I like the soups, because I've done a lot of different things with, salads and vegetables and, basmati rice and quinoa and, salmon and, so I
Yeah.
haven't done a lot with soups. And, I've definitely had, gone over friends' houses that have done, the puree type soups, and I love them. I just haven't personally made them. And I'm like, I don't even know where to
Yeah,
start.
well, for this cleanse, the way you want to think about it is that go simple, like choose one thing, right? And then you're going to steam it, and then you're going to blend it, and then you're going to put the ghee on top. So we're not going to be cooking with ghee, which is a little bit different, because usually what I would do is I'd put the ghee in a pan with some spices and put it on
Yeah.
or so it's saute it. This is a little different. So, and you want the colors to be really fresh and bright. So don't overcook it. So like if you're going to do a broccoli soup, you chop up the broccoli pretty small, pretty fine, and put it in a saute pan with some water and simmer it and then blend it, and then you can put a little bit of that seed mixture on top or a little ghee on top. And what's really beautiful is that the flavors of the foods are going to start to come out more. Like you're going to notice like maybe you don't even need to put any spices. Like the spinach just tastes so good just on its own, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we want to use the spices for variety, right? And there's so many fruits and vegetables that we can do, just so many different kinds of things. So
Yeah.
variety.
Yeah.
And then lean on doing like, a couple slices of like potato or sweet potato or, like with the quinoa or with the different things. And, I should do those buckwheat tortillas too.
Yeah. That's something that I have never done. I've never used buckwheat.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a post on that. I'm just making a note here.
Yeah. I'm not really a tortilla person, but I haven't done buckwheat. Um, just from, well, when I was a dancer, all I ate was produce and fish and chicken. I mean, that was it. And it was very simple. And then, definitely have gotten away from that because I'm not doing that anymore. But then went into the Ayurveda, learning that. And then I found that the beans and all of that stuff was just too heavy for my system. So
Mhm.
I'm still very much a more vegetarian, well, a pescatarian, I should say. and
Mhm.
lean towards more of a Mediterranean type diet. But I haven't done soups. So, I'm definitely interested in that. And I'll try the buckwheat. I
Yeah,
definitely,
I'll do a post and then I listed in the Facebook group. So there's buckwheat, there's amaranth, and there's teff, right?
yeah, I've never heard those two.
Yeah, they're so good. Like teff is so good. I need to make teff for the
Really?
morning. Yeah,
So is it like it's like a flour then, huh?
it's a flour. Yeah. I actually need to hop off because I
Okay.
I would keep our times set.
Yeah,
So I love that you are engaging the Facebook group. Thank you so much for doing that. It makes
you're
such
welcome.
a difference because I was just about to like text people privately and be like, you have to post because what happens is we all start to get shy, and nobody wants to talk about their stuff. And then if one person starts to, then everybody's like, oh, I can do this, and so then we'll all start to share. So thank you
Yeah,
for doing that, Julie. I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
It's
Absolutely.
fun.
And
I
thank
mean,
you for doing this.
it's about us. So like what else should we be doing? It's like we're supporting ourselves, don't you want to support yourself? So it's like we gotta just support each other to support ourselves because
Yeah, yeah,
we just get in our stuff and we don't want to look at things. So
yeah,
well,
exactly.
lots of love. And then just put any questions that you have or comments or anything in the Facebook group because chances are other people have the same questions, right?
Yeah.
About this thing. So
Okay. That
okay.
sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.